Welcome to the Women in Business radio show with Sian Murphy, connecting women in business around the globe.
Hello and welcome into the Women in Business radio show studio. I'm Sian Murphy and my co-host is... Kay Best, who is we had this nailed, didn't we?
We did.
Spiritual practitioner,
consultant and trainer.
You see, she does so much. We had to try and narrow it down. Also in the studio with us today is Emma Bancroft, who is a holistic therapist. So welcome into the studio, Emma.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to be talking to Emma about all sorts of things, actually. So we're going to be talking about her journey into becoming a holistic therapist. Some of the balancing act that she had to go through as she started building in the holistic side of her life into a little bit more formally, perhaps, as a business. Mm-hmm. That sort of bit of a funny juggling act that sometimes we go through when we're trying to pretend that we're something we're not. And letting our woo-woo out. Yeah. But also, I would like to be hearing about some of the things that Emma does and how they can potentially help us. So that's where we're going. So welcome, Emma. Tell us a little bit about your story. Start off with what you do, so the sorts of therapies that you offer and who you work with.
Okay, so my main therapy is Reiki. That's where it all sort of started. And from that, I also really got into crystals through my Reiki master. So I do crystal healing as well. Love a bit of meditation, so I offer that as well. I've held groups in the past, they were really good. And so then to build the business, I also trained in a bit of massage. So Indian head massage and a lovely rose quartz facial. So that's not only a facial but healing within it because you get the crystal healing. So they're the therapies that I'm sort of doing at the moment, and also training to become a hypnotherapist. So that's my next one.
Right. What sort of people do you work with? So what sort of clients do you tend to have? And why do they come to you? So what is it typically that they might... So when they arrive at your door, what sort of issues are they bringing with them?
I think it's people that kind of want a bit more of a work-life balance, or they might have anxiety over something. They might be seeking a way to just have some calm in their life and for what they have with me to then go into their life. So they're not just having it once and then that's it, you know. It's not a miracle cure.
Right, so I think what we're doing is we're distinguishing a little bit between you're going to a spa for the day and you're going to have a nice massage and a bit of a facial, a glass of Prosecco and some quiche, and then go away and say, I've had a lovely day at the spa, and then you may or may not do it again. As opposed to something where you're looking for something that's a little bit more... built into your process, your care pack, your personal care, something where you will build on it, and you may be looking to resolve perhaps a little bit of a longer term issue rather more than just have a nice day out with some mates.
That's exactly it. So building it into your lifestyle really, and taking the time for yourself, so understanding that there are things that you can do to help you, and to put yourself first as well. So you had a little bit of a journey. I mean, there's a story behind you becoming a holistic therapist, and also some of the issues that you faced with doing that. Because at first, I think like a lot of people who suddenly see or slowly develop a more spiritual, I'm going to call it woo-woo side, and that could be healing, it could be magic, and I don't mean pulling rabbits out of hats, but more sort of looking for magic, white witches, or people who are doing all sorts of things and it could be something like hypnotherapy, it could be sort of counselling where they're not a psychotherapist. You're not going to see them and it's not attached to the NHS. It's a little bit more sort of holistic than that. They sort of keep a lot of that to themselves, don't they? Because Yeah.
They may have actually been ridiculed, or they may be expecting ridicule. And you had a little bit of that journey, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I expected to be ridiculed for it. But once I started speaking about it to people, they were very... I think when you meet me, you realise that's just me. And I think even before I told people about what I enjoyed doing, it just all made sense. Like, I was always a bit of the friend that was a bit woo-woo without knowing why I was woo-woo, sort of thing. So always a bit flighty, and not that people are flighty that are into holistic therapy, but you know what I mean? Like, people, yeah, it just made sense for people.
And I think sometimes we forget that people are a little bit cleverer than we may give them credit for, and that we may try and hide these things, but actually people have spotted that you're maybe a little bit different. I think though sometimes a lot of it comes from fear. You know, if you've got an existing career, an existing job, or an existing business where you're dealing with perhaps corporate people or a particular, you know, you're in that sort of role, that there is a fear behind, oh my goodness me, what are they going to think? What's going to happen if they find out that I work with crystals, or I do healing, I'm a healer, and that they're going to make a judgment actually that one thing is going to affect your performance. You know, they're paying you, and it's going to affect your performance because another bit of you is doing this weird stuff. Was that something that you thought? I think it's something that's there for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was something that I thought when I first got into it quite a few years ago. Yeah, I did hide it. And then eventually, you know, in my career, when people found out, again, it wasn't an issue. So it just made sense.
And I think that's quite interesting. I had a similar experience where, and I know lots of people who have been through that similar thing, where they're trying to keep everything separate. It hasn't worked. Mainly it hasn't worked because they're not actually being themselves. And I think it's very difficult when you're not being yourself. Yeah. But when actually, if you like, the house of cards has collapsed and all is revealed, that really nobody cares. that it was all in your head. Exactly. You know, because really people are not thinking about you, are they? They're not. We think people are thinking about us, and you know, oh well, I can't do that if she's doing this, and oh, she's a bit weird. They're not thinking about us at all. They're thinking about themselves. Nobody's actually looking at my bum. No. You know, nobody's going, her bum looks big. They're all worried about their own bums, aren't they? Yeah. And so actually sort of that realisation and letting it go. Yeah. After that happened, was it sort of quite a quick, I'm going to say tumble, and I'm not sure that's the right word, but did things, you know, sort of, was it like dominoes? You did this, you did that, then this happened, then that happened, and everything in your spiritual business, your holistic business, moved quite quickly?
Kind of. So it was kind of more like everything in my personal life. Once I started to be true to myself in my personal life, that started to move a lot more quickly. Right. So I met my partner, and I used to hide it from people that I would meet. So like men, I would hide it from. And then I met my partner, and I was open about it. I went down the meditation route first but he was just like, oh, that's what you enjoy. So that side of my life kind of then started moving a lot quicker. If I hadn't started being true to myself, then I would never have met him. And then this year it's really started to snowball, all the business stuff. So when I decided that's what I was going to do, it just has really happened quickly. Yeah.
So I wonder if it sometimes, I think, you know, we're being ourselves, we relax, and what we want to happen is actually sort of then what happens, isn't it? Because we've taken a step back from everything, and we, you know, our fists aren't clenched anymore, and things start moving. Yeah. Was there anybody, and I'm not asking you to name names, you know, Auntie Maud was horrible, but was there anywhere where you did get this sort of reaction that was perhaps not as nice and that you had to deal with or ignore?
I think when I first, because I've had this dream for many years, so this business, I used to joke with people that I had a 5-year plan, And then actually 5 years later, it kind of started happening. So that's a bit of cosmic ordering.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yes.
And so over those 5 years, some people might sort of be a bit like, oh, that's not really a proper job. So I feel like I am trying to prove that it's going to work. But most people, I think, they know that I love it. They know that I'm passionate about it. It's a way of my life as well. It's not just, I've not just decided to do this all of a sudden. So people now are very, very supportive. I don't have anyone now that is like, oh, it's not really a proper job. Everyone is just like, oh, yeah.
But I think if somebody does do that, you have a choice, don't you? You can either take that judgment on board, or you can just completely and utterly ignore them.
Yeah.
And just, well, okay, that's an interesting opinion you have there. That's fine. Off your trot.
Yeah.
Because it's meaningless, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So you did your qualifications. So you got your stuff that you need to start practicing. Then what happened?
So I got all my qualifications, and that was over the so it was 10 years ago that I really got into all of this. So it was over those 10 years that I got the different qualifications. And then I think over like COVID and that sort of period, I wasn't so focused on wanting the business side of things. So it kind of got left to the side a little bit. And then this year I started to have hypnotherapy at the beginning of the year, solution focused hypnotherapy. And it just...
Now, this was for yourself?
Yeah, this was for me to deal with
stuff.
Things. Yeah.
And, the sort of crap we all have. Yeah.
And it was literally the best thing ever. And, one night I went to bed and just thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to set my business up. It was like a switch. And it was kind of, I just went back to how I used to feel, and the excitement built up. And then, I messaged Amanda, who owns the salon where I work, and the next morning it was decided.
So it's where you now work.
Yeah.
So, because I think what happens is a lot of people, they want to make a change in their life. So they may be doing something quite corporate, they may be doing something structured, they may have a job, they may be doing nothing, I say nothing at all. They may have been at home with children, or not have had an earning career. They do their training, they qualify, they've got the certificate. Now what?
Yeah.
So you contacted. So your first action, having got your qualifications, having got qualified, your first action was you rang a salon.
Yeah, and it's where I have my hair cut. So, and I love it there.
Okay.
So they were looking.
So you
for
knew,
someone.
right? So you knew you already had a relationship with them. You knew that they had perhaps a spa room or something along those lines. So you rang her up.
Yeah, they were looking for someone to take the room for 2 days, and they'd been putting it out there for a few weeks. And at first I saw it and thought, oh, that's my dream. I'd love to do that, but it's not the right time. And then a few weeks later, like I said, the switch just flicked, and I was just like, no, why? Like, I should just do it. It's my dream. Why am I not doing my dream?
So I think there are different ways of, we say, launching the business side of things, aren't there? And perhaps not launching, perhaps going into the business side of things. So I suppose the options are, she says, thinking it through here, is that you can rent a room in an existing spa space or area where you pay rent and then you bring your own clients in.
Yeah.
You could set up somewhere in your own home, couldn't you? You could, as long as you've got the relevant permissions that you need, you could convert something or have a cabin built and have people come into your home, bringing in your own clients. You could be paid, couldn't you? You could go and work in a hotel spa where people pay the hotel to have massages and whatever while they're there, and they pay you a salary, much the same as working anywhere else, to deliver that service. Yeah. So which one of it was it that were you renting the space in this room and bringing your own clients in and perhaps tapping into some of the clients that were already coming into the hairdressers? Yeah,
that's it. So I've brought some of my own clients in.
Right.
And then some people who are already there, like, having their hair done and things, they've been interested, and so then they've booked in. Yeah.
Right. So, and I also know that another step for you was to start working at events where it's a bit of both. Sometimes there are clients coming in who want to have a therapy, and there are other times when you use that space as a treat, as like your own, as a spa that you rent out, and you bring your own people in. It's just you book them in there rather than booking them into your home or perhaps the hairdressing salon. So there were a number of options open to you. What were some of the other business things that you needed to think about that perhaps you hadn't experienced before? When we get paid, when we're employed, some money arrives in our bank. We have a pay slip and money arrives in our bank account, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We don't have to go every day and ask. We don't have to go every time we've delivered, in your case, a class, and go, okay, I've done C5 today. Can you pay me, please?
Yeah, there's so much behind the scenes that I didn't realise.
What are some of the ones that stuck out? Are there any where you can remember thinking, "Oh, I didn't think of that"?
I think it's like the time that you put into it that is just your time. You don't get paid for any of that time, do you? That's just your time.
Yeah. So your admin time.
Yeah. So like. The accounts is a big thing that has always worried me, because I don't want to don't want to do something wrong. But I've made sure that I've got someone that's going to do my accounts later on in the year. But it's even just keeping the up to date with like what you spend, putting that into the account system. That takes forever, having your receipts and all the paperwork. Making sure that you're up to date and that you don't leave it to the last minute. So the boring stuff behind.
It is boring stuff, isn't it? Were you surprised by that? Because I think when we're looking at what it is that we want, when we're starting up a business, I think the vision very often is, in your particular case, it's around sort of massage and healing. And the vision is like delivering that service, massaging, doing some healing, perhaps in a nice spa. And then for every hour that you deliver, guess what? There's 1 to 2 hours of admin behind it. Had you pictured that at all?
No, not really.
No.
No. And also, like, social media is such a big thing now, but that takes so much time, doing the social media side of things, which really does help. So that's another thing that takes a lot of my time. Sometimes I feel just like I'm just glued to my phone, like, doing the next thing. But I really enjoy it. That's the thing. Like, I enjoy it. It's not a chore. I do like doing it. But it's just like also the expense of everything to get ready to go live with the business. So,
what sort of things struck you? What sort of things did you find were your, say, key expenses?
Well, it's just like so much builds up. So buying the towels, making sure we've got the towels, buying all the crystals, like the crystals for my facial. So many crystals, the heating bag that you heat the crystals up in, all the facial cleansers, like, everything to do that one treatment. It really built up the extra training, the courses that your insurance company say, oh, it'd be good if you do this course. Box and things like that. So all those things, they just add up and add up.
And of course, you sort of need you need to have the crystals in order to do the crystal healing, don't you? In order to do the crystal facials, you have to have all of this stuff up front, even before you know that you're going to get clients.
And then, like, I was doing a facial a little while ago, and one of my crystals broke. And I was devastated. But that's I need to replace that crystal. This poor crystal that I'm going to bury in the garden, it just...
Gone?
Yeah, because it got dropped.
So there's ongoing expenses and things. What about getting clients? How? Because one of the things that I found sort of working with businesses who move over into something like that is they do the qualifications, they get the supplies, they get everything done, but then it's like, okay, how do I get people to work with me?
Yeah.
How do I make that happen?
Yeah, so that's still something that I'm building up now.
How did you get your first client?
So my first client was they already went to the salon.
But how did you, so they're going along to have their hair done, and then it's the next step on, isn't it, to join you for a therapy? Yeah. So what happened to actually drive that through?
For me, at that point, it was social media, because...
So even though you were in the same salon...
Yeah, I've got my own page.
Right,
yeah.
So you're in the salon, but... where these people were coming to anyway, but you used social media to actually get them as a client for you.
Yeah, and then at the salon, they're very supportive, and they want it to work, so they share your posts. They also put a lot of things on their page, so they sort of advertise in a way, I guess, for me as well.
So you're collaborating with people, but I think the key thing that I'm getting here out of this is that you're doing something that other people are sharing. You're not sat there in the salon with your bum on your therapy chair waiting for somebody to come in and see you. You're actually creating content. You're creating content, whatever that sort of content is, be it digital, be you putting it on social media, be it leaflets or cards or whatever. You're creating content that people that you're collaborating with are sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like a real sort of 3-step process, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I find with the therapies that I do, a lot of people don't really know how they can help, or they don't really know what they are. So that's what I'm really trying to get across on like my social media, and I'm going to have a website built as well, so that people can understand more about how it works and what it can do. And I do think they're getting more out there, the therapies in general, with other practitioners as well. But it's not as simple as massage. People know if they go for a massage, they're going to get that knot sorted out in their back or whatever. Reiki and crystals are quite different.
Yeah, it's not tangible as a result, and it's not easy to explain either, is it? Because there isn't a tangible result, you can't say to somebody, well, this is what it's going to feel like, because it's different for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I always love I love it when someone comes to me and they've not had it before, because I always say that to them, that, it's very different for everyone. So I can give them ideas of how it might feel, but then it's lovely. I love hearing afterwards what happened in their experience.
So talk to us a little bit about some of the social media that you use. What are some of the ideas that you do? Because you're quite active, aren't you?
Yes.
What do you find works for you? And I think the thing is, anybody listening in, is everybody has to do their own thing, don't they, in their own way. It's no good doing what somebody else does, because that's not going to necessarily work for you. And it's about finding out what works for you. How did you find out what works for you?
I kind of just had a bit of a play around, really. I have another page, because last year I was off with an operation, so I got really into art, so I have an art page as well.
Oh, okay. So when you say pages, these are on Facebook?
Yeah, and Instagram, yeah. And so I kind of learned a bit of the way then of how, what works quite well and what people like, and make sure you post quite regularly, because if you don't post, then eventually you just get put at the wayside. So I had a bit of that, and then I started my new page for my business. And I realised that I needed to get my face on there. People needed to see me. And then videos of me just talking and explaining. Like my last one was about a bit of science behind Reiki. So I really like listening to books or doing research about science behind it. So I like to give people information like the science or what to expect. And I find that people react better when it's a video than just a written post.
So I think what we're saying here is that you realised that you're delivering, if I say a personal service, but it is, isn't it? It is a very personal service. Healing, massage, all of that sort of thing is who you are. Matters. That sounds a bit patronising, but it sort of really does matter.
Yeah.
And so you recognise that actually if you're going to attract people, the right people, that they need to see you.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing, that you couldn't hide behind pictures on your social media. And that the second thing that you found worked was actually the amount of knowledge that you've built up behind what you do, and to actually start sharing that and I must say explaining, that sounds like you're patronising people, but actually making sure that people understand what goes on behind what you're delivering.
Yeah.
And that those two things have worked for you, and that those are the two approaches, and then the technique behind that you've used to deliver it that you found works for you is video.
Yeah, I do, yeah. And I find now that if I need to do a post that isn't a video, I don't really enjoy that as much. I quite like just doing the videos.
Do you just do them on your phone?
Yeah. just talk to myself for a while and then just edit it. And then just put the bits that I want. You know, I always think it would be hilarious if I put some outcuts of, you know, me being like, oh, that was terrible and things, you know, because there are. So
whilst we're at this point, where can people go and see these? So what's your Facebook page? What's your Instagram?
So my Instagram is Holistic Therapy with Emma. And then my Facebook is called Sanctuary for the Soul. Because originally I was going to call my business that, but then I decided to change it to a more simpler, you know, to say what it actually does, which is holistic therapy. So, yeah.
Right. So, you've also started working at events.
Yeah.
What was it that sort of prompted that approach in what you were doing? Because it's not right for everybody.
Yeah.
The same as working in a salon isn't right for everybody. I think everybody sort of has their own way of operating. What was it that brought you to, if you like, an event, a regular fair where, I don't know, what should we call it, a pamper and spiritual fair, something along those lines? What brought you to that sort of approach?
Well, in the past, I've gone to them myself and really liked going to fairs and seeing, I remember seeing, like, you know, Reiki therapists doing Reiki and thinking, oh, that could be me, I could be doing that. And then when I decided I was going to start the business, I literally just had a look on Facebook and found it.
Yeah.
And then thought, I'll see if there's anything available, and there was. But I find the fairs now, I just find them so beneficial because you get to talk to so many businesses. So I go there to do, you know, my therapies with people and to earn some money, but I also get so much out of it because it's like a bit of a collaboration where you get to talk to so many people and share ideas. And, you know, when you have your own business, you do worry about things, and then you can talk to someone and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's, you know, I was thinking that as well. And then you come away thinking, oh, okay, I don't need to worry anymore.
I think there are all sorts of people that can go to events and offer sort of what they do. And in some respects, it's like going along to a networking event, isn't it? So going along to, you know, if you're an accountant, you might go to a morning networking event or a ladies who latte or something like that, where you are meeting people, and it just gives you the chance to go, do you know, this happened to me last week, and somebody else goes, that happened to me, yeah, I had that sort of person come along, and this happened and that happened, and you realise that actually you're not the only person in the world that this has happened to. You're not a total idiot, and that you get ideas. Also, they sort of get you out, don't they? So do you think that this sort of almost like multiple-pronged approach to lots of different routes into I don't know, sharing what you do, I suppose, getting clients, marketing, is something that's worked for you? Yeah,
it has really worked. Because also, I think I'm in 2 different locations. So people can who might not live near the first location can get to the second one at the event.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had a couple of people that's closer to them, so that works well for them. And then you get to meet more people as well, you know, at the events as well.
It also offers a different environment, doesn't it? Which I think sometimes when you're coming out to do a holistic therapy, it's actually important to consider in terms of both you as the therapist, but also your client. So when you're practicing in your own home, say your own space, and you have one room, or you're operating in somebody else's room where you have one room, you need that client in and out the door, don't you? Sorry, being blunt, but you need in, clothes off, or whatever, on the bed. They have their therapy, they have their treatment, and then you either need to build in an hour for them to sit there and relax and chat, or you need to get them out because your next person's coming in. You have to manage that.
Yeah.
Whereas at events, there's potentially, and you need to check this because not all events are the same, but potentially there's a space where they can go and sit down for an hour by themselves, you know, where they can wait, they can sit, they can arrive early, they can leave later, they can park on the doorstep, and they don't necessarily have to rush out.
Yeah.
But the timings of things are really quite critical, aren't they? How was that something that you were aware of before you started actually practicing with people? The need to actually manage this time?
Not really sure. I know that I don't want to rush people, so I do sort of block out quite a chunk of time if I've got somebody coming in, because I think because of the type of therapy it is, like, you want to be able to talk after. You don't want them to be emotional and then just say, oh, it's time, bye. Yeah. So I do always have quite a chunk of time.
So you'd thought about that beforehand. You'd actually said, okay, how much do I need for each client? What does each person need?
Yeah. So I always think, you know, we probably have 15 minutes beforehand and then 15 minutes after. But it's good in the salon, actually, because if they wanted to stay a bit longer before they went home, there's a little seated area and they can have a coffee. They don't have to rush out. So a bit like at the events, it's nice that they get that time and they can be there longer if they want to be. But yeah, I probably leave too much time in between people because I would hate to be rushed, because then that goes against what I'm doing. Yes.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, there is the balance between you need to earn some money and taking money. So basically, you need to build that in, don't you? You need to make allowances for that. Give yourself a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's the sort of thing that any therapist has to deal with, isn't it? I mean, we see sometimes, especially on the American sitcoms or programs, where somebody's going in to see their psychiatrist and they're sat there and the bell goes off and they go, right, well, that's it. That's our 50 minutes for the day. And they're off out there. They could be in tears, but they're off out the door, aren't they? And the door's open. They're bundled out. It's time. Goodbye. And there's a waiting room full of people waiting to come in. So that's not the approach that you decided to take. No. And so you deliberately beforehand built in enough space sort of before and after for your treatment to happen.
Yeah, because I think part of the treatment is the talking and the empathy. It's not just, you know, Reiki and that's it. It's also your relationship with it as well.
Were there any boundaries that you had to put in place around that? Because I think there are clear. It's a bit like somebody who can perhaps help with anxiety and somebody who can help with schizophrenia or bipolar. One is a very, very different thing, isn't it? And that there's a boundary that has to be put in there. Is that something that you found you did, or it just happened?
I think it just happened. I never really thought about the boundary, but people that have come to me have never crossed the line or crossed the boundary. It's always remained quite professional, but in a caring way, sort of thing. So yeah, everyone that comes to me will chat to me during that time, and if there was something afterwards, that they could message me, or sometimes I might message people just to check that they're, you know, feeling okay the next day. But yeah, there's no one's ever really sort of crossed the boundary.
Okay, so it's not anything that you've had to do yet.
No.
Okay. I think it's something that does come up. I'm bringing Kay into this discussion now because I think, Kay, you also work with people, and very often sometimes some anxiety-led things as well.
Yeah.
It can be an issue, can't it, where people are coming for perhaps things that are beyond that need. When I say professional help, I don't mean that what holistic therapists are doing isn't professional. It's just that it needs specialist help, doesn't it? And it needs that sort of specialist support behind it.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with somebody who's potentially volatile and physically dangerous and that sort of thing, they need to be somewhere else, don't they? That needs to be recognised. The boundary needs to be sort of set, and they need to be getting a different sort of help.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how is that something that you manage, especially when they're sat in front of you? Because sometimes they may be there. They've arrived. They've arrived.
Yeah.
There they are.
Yeah, and we had a particular problem not so long ago where somebody sat there and wouldn't move until a certain person came or didn't come, and even getting up and walking away didn't stop that. I mean, and that in a sense is quite extreme, that you then had to step in, other people had to step in. Generally, a lot of people are pretty good, and you don't always know that they need extra help until you're at that point where it becomes really obvious. And then in a way, it's like you want to protect them and not have too many eyes on them. So it's sort of, what are you going to do and where are you going to go?
And I suppose in a way that's potentially something to think about when you're considering, you've done your qualifications. Now, what sort of people are you going to be working with? And if you are working with people where, say you're a hypnotherapist or you're dealing with anxiety or something like that, and somebody comes along to you and you're dealing with the sorts of people who potentially every now and then somebody may pop up where they are going to be troublesome, shall we say, that you may want to be doing that in a clinic type environment where you have support around you, where there are other people, where you can very quietly call on their assistance at the events. I would hope any event that anybody's working at, they would be able to pop out the room, put a hand up, say, actually, I need a little bit of support here. So perhaps think about that, not wanting to be a harbinger of doom, but maybe think about that as you're moving forwards into who you're going to be treating, sort of what safeguards you have in place for not only your safety but also theirs as well. How do you bring this to a close? If somebody's getting very upset, how do you bring this to an okay ending?
Yeah, and sometimes you need. It's okay not to be okay as well, don't you? Sometimes,
right? Yes, but actually to be able to deal to be in a way prepared that somebody may be very, very distressed, and perhaps visualize, imagine that process happening. How what would I do if this situation arose? If somebody was behaving like this, what steps would I take to keep them and me safe, and actually bring the relationship on this particular day and time to a pleasant, amicable ending, but get them out the door. Get them out the door in the nicest way possible that sort of suits everybody. So I think there's some stuff, there is some stuff I think that, like you said, with the accountancy and some of the admin and all of this sort of thing that goes beyond the initial dream, isn't there? And that sometimes was there any point where you thought, this is not what I pictured and I think I may need to not do this?
No, I never had that moment, because I knew there would be, it wouldn't just be
all joy.
I'm just going to start this and this is it. Like, I knew there'd be a lot of organising to do. And I enjoy organising. Like, I enjoy doing that sort of stuff. But I do sometimes, sometimes you do. I think it's natural when you own a business to think, just have a panic every now and then of, have I done the right thing? And I think that's natural.
So if you have that panic, because we all get it, don't we?
Yeah.
If you have that moment, what do you do? How do you deal with that?
I just kind of tell myself, no, Emma, this is what you wanted to do. This is what you love doing, and I just have a word with myself, and it goes. That's all I do.
Okay.
It's just a quick sort of moment. Sometimes I might talk to someone else who's got their own business and just say, oh, I'm a bit panicky, and they'll just say that's normal. We all get it. Basically, get used to it, because that's what it's like when you have your own business.
I think everybody, I think what you said about talking to somebody else, I think, and I think also that's something that belonging to a community events type thing is where you get the opportunity to share that and realise that actually, this is, because it is normal. And once you know that something's normal, once you know that it happens to nearly everybody who isn't a psychopath, then you say, oh, okay, all right then, yes. So having a community, I also think I think it's quite nice to have a community of people who work within your area. So a community of holistic people, that, perhaps working like that, but also people that are doing other things, that are doing different parts of a business, to have accountants in there and that sort of thing, to have a real nice mix so that you can chat to all sorts. Because I think when you find out that, that an accountant has also had a moment of panic and going, oh my God, why have I done this? Oh, you think, oh, okay, actually, this isn't just me. It's not my profession. It's everybody. It's just who we are as people, and it's perfectly normal, and we move on.
Yeah. And I did speak to someone actually just before it all kind of went live, one of my Reiki masters, and I messaged her and just said, how I was feeling, and she just said it's because you want to be the best you can be. So don't actually, if you weren't worrying, that would be a worry.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, I was just sitting there thinking that being nervous at times to me is good, because it keeps you a little bit grounded, and you don't think, oh well, I can do this, or I'm better than them, or anything else. There's still that, oh God, what if it goes wrong?
Yeah, I think it's balance, isn't it? It's a little bit of doubt, which makes you look at what you're doing and visit what you're up to, and is there anything you need to tweak and change, as opposed to striding forward arrogantly, but without it sort of tipping over into screaming abdabs and crawling up the walls and giving in. Okay.
How have you found the events since you've been doing them? Has that sort of grown the business, or?
Yeah, they've really helped. And like I said, I really enjoy them. But there's been people that I've met at the events that have then booked in with me for the next one, or word of mouth of people that they want to see me, and I'll say, oh, I'm at this event, and then they'll say, oh, I'll come there to see you. So and then you get a little bit of passing trade sometimes, which is nice as well.
What do you think's been your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge is when I first started, so before it all went, real live and things, was to actually have the belief in myself, I would say. So and to know that I was going to be okay, to know I was good enough. It was thinking, am I good enough to do this? It was that real
how did
I do this?
how did you get that confidence then? How did you know that you were good enough?
Well, I think because I've done Reiki for so long, and on people that I know, and it was just knowing that if I don't give it a shot now, I'm never going to do it. So it was just going for it, and knowing that it was okay to be nervous. And actually, in life, anyway, that's often the way I am. And can I do this? And if I didn't do it, I would never do it. This was the time.
So you had to chat with yourself, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. What do you know now that you wish you'd have known when you started out?
I think I used to be really worried about, say with massage, there's, a lot of things that would stop it from taking place. Like if someone's got heart problems or something, you can't do it.
Yeah.
And I used to be worried about someone coming in and then saying to them, oh, I'm really sorry, we can't do that. But now I've just that doesn't worry me anymore. And I wish that I'd known that before, because that used to really be on my mind. Whereas now I'm kind of like, actually, it shows that I'm not just going to do it on anyone. And people that I've had to say to them, I'm really sorry, we can't do this, they've actually been, oh.
So the lights have just gone off in the studio. We have no idea why, but so we're sat here. I can't see anybody. But never mind. Anything can happen like that. All the lights are on the deck. We are still live. It's just the lights. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
Right. So you were worried that you might have to tell somebody that because of a physical condition or something that they had, that you wouldn't be able to help them that day.
But actually, people are quite appreciative of you being honest, and I worried that people might be unhappy with me for saying, we can't do this, but I've not had that. And now I just feel like if somebody was unhappy, I'm doing what I need to do. It's the
right thing to do to keep everybody safe.
Yeah. It's telling them, isn't it, that you're professional.
Yeah. So it's assertiveness, really, and I feel like I've grown with my assertiveness.
What's your top tip for being in business?
I would say to make sure you speak to people, because when I first started, I remember saying to someone, it's actually quite lonely when you're in business on your own. Like, it's not like when you're at work and you've got everyone around you that you can talk to. When you're at home and you're trying to set everything up and you're on the computer doing things. And then I found like a collaboration event and the events that we go to as well. And that is what's really helped me. I would say if you're going to set up your own business, make sure you do collaborate with other businesses and talk to them. And actually what I found is small businesses are so helpful and they want everyone to succeed. So you're not in competition with each other. You're like everybody's cheerleader. And that's what I found.
It's sort of an intelligence, isn't it? It's an intelligence that a lot of people have and some people don't, which is that somebody doing something that looks similar to you isn't actually in competition with you. They have their own people who go to them and you have your people who go to you. Yeah. And that's okay. And that's okay. So, Emma, we have about two minutes left. How can people get hold of you?
So Instagram is a good one. They can message me on Instagram. Instagram comes through like messages on my phone, or Facebook. Message me on Facebook. So Holistic Therapy of Emma is my Instagram. Sanctuary for the Soul is Facebook, or they can contact the Salon Linen & Co in Rainham, where I'm based 2 days a week. And
you're at Longfield Calming Health and Beauty Fair on the second Sunday of every month.
Yeah. So
people can come along there and see you. Yeah. Okay. Not much longer now, but I'm going to fire one more question at you. So, looking at starting your holistic business, and I'm going to say moving from, but evolving from a job in a corporate type environment into something holistic. What is your top tip for that?
I would say you've really got to organise yourself, because if you're still in that, if you're in both environments, you've got to be able to compartmentalise?
That's it, yes.
Yeah. You've got to put them into their boxes. So have your one thing that you do, don't let them cross over, and really focus on that one thing you're doing at the time.
Yeah.
So don't be doing one thing and be thinking about the other thing.
So be where you are.
Yeah, be present.
Be present where you are at that moment.
Yeah.
Okay, Emma Bancroft, thank you so much for sharing your lovely journey and story with you. K-Best co-host, thank you so much for being in the studio and sharing your wisdom, and we will see you all for the Spiritual Business Show in 4 weeks' time. So take care.
Tune in next week to the Women in Business radio show for more stories, ideas and inspiration to help you grow your business.